I'm on Penang Hill, which is on Penang Island and is overlooking Georgetown, which was named for George III when it was settled by the British at the end of the 18th century. And it's this extraordinary place because it is very multicultural. You have Little India and Chinatown. There's a lot of colonial buildings, which is the sort of old British influence. And then, Malay culture as well. And that's part of the reason that it's a UNESCO World Culture Site. So this is the beginning of Chinatown. And what is great about this place is that there is just a ton of street art everywhere. And it has to do with a festival that took place in 2012. So it hasn't really been here for all of that long. But everywhere you go, every corner that you turn, there are lots of different street artists who've been sort of doing interesting and exciting things all over the place. And the thing that I really like here is that all of the cultures seem to work really well together. They really kind of mesh. And I suspect that that's partially because it's been like this for a long time, that because, the Chinese and Indians and Malay and other cultures have been here for sort of 500 years, that it all, there's been a lot of time for everything to kind of work together, and for me, I think it does. It reminds me, particularly with the Chinese influence, it reminds me a little bit of Hoi An. But the thing that I disliked about Hoi An is that it felt very touristy and like a made-up place almost, or a place just for tourists. And this does not. It feels like a place where real people live, with still a lot of tourists. So the comparison that I would make is that it's sort of like what Paris is to Berlin, Hoi An is to Georgetown. That helps at all to illustrate what I'm trying to say. So this is Little India, and having briefly lived in India, it's like a much more sanitized version. It's all of the lovely, good smells without any of the bad, unless, of course, you don't like incense or like the smell of curry, I suppose. It's nice just kind of, for me, it's nice wandering around because it just, it reminds me of a place that, I like a lot, and, all the music and the flowers and the incense and the little temples and all of that stuff. So I'm standing in front of St. George's Anglican Church, which is the oldest Anglican church in Southeast Asia. And as I've mentioned before, there are quite a lot of colonial buildings. And what I enjoy is that the colonial buildings now, some of them have like Chinese restaurants in them, or like Indian silk merchants. They're not just there's all this sort of crossover and overlap between the different cultures, and you find the sort of hipster cafes that are in the old kind of Chinese buildings and stuff like that. So the Western influence here I have found to be much more integrated as opposed to imposed, which is kind of what I felt in some of the Southeast Asian countries that I've been to. Or maybe I'm just trying to justify what might be considered somewhat hypocritical. But yeah, it's a nice overlap, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. For me, as for you, Malaysia has been a snapshot. A week is not really very long, but it certainly has been an interesting experience. Interesting, good.